Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Proving Grounds Pod, your one-stop shop for all things Proving Grounds. My name is Smax, and I'm joined with my constant co-host, Cubby, and our very special guest today, a third top laner in a row for the show, Allorim, is with us on episode 6. Allorim, how are you doing today?
I'm all right, man. Thanks.
All right, sounds good. I know that it's very cold across the nation right now. Is it very cold where you are?
I'm in Georgia, and I guess it's cold for Georgia, but it's not. I'm not freezing, so I'm doing all
right. It is just a heavenly glow coming from my window over here. That's because it's all snow.
Okay.
So that is why that is the case. Cubby, how are you?
Yeah, there's like a foot of snow on the ground by me. It's a real good time at the moment, but at least I'm not Texas, where couple like my few friends down there, like they had their power out for the last 2 days, pretty much. They got it back at 2 a.m. yesterday. Yeah, it's brutal.
That's what happened to the Wichita Wolves, right? They had like some power outage for UPL or something.
Yeah,
that was wild. Well, anyway, glad that we got the weather talk out of the way. I don't even know why I brought that up.
You're just checking the elevator conversation, like your checkboxes, right? Like the casual small talk.
46 degrees in Georgia, so.
Oh, okay, that's like 3 times Michigan. So, yeah, not the worst. Anyway. Hello, we've got you on. You just participated in Challengers Uprising, made it to the playoffs. Previous to that, top 8 in Big League, top 4 in Risen. Tell us a little about your team and how Proving Grounds has gone for you guys so far.
Well, I guess we formed pretty late into the amateur forming rosters, so. It just kind of happened. Like, I don't want to say we didn't do like an extended tryout period or anything, or I don't even think we did tryouts at all. And if we did, it was like very, very few of them.
Yeah.
I came into amateur pretty late on whether I wanted to play or not, because before I was coming into the amateur scene, I was also looking for opportunities in Europe. I was looking to join an ERL team. And when I did get a few offers from an ERL teams, but none of them were very enticing at the time, and so I decided to stay here and instead do broadcasting with Riot. And on top of that, I just decided to do amateur as well, just so I can keep up playing. Which, at my heart, I am a player, but since I didn't make it on a LCS or academy team this split, I just, at least for financial reasons, I kept on doing broadcasting, because obviously amateur, unless you're on a select few teams, does not exactly pay very well. So
I like how you said a select few.
Yeah.
And yeah, those initials might line up with the select few teams.
Yeah, so with our team, it just was a group of guys that got together. It wasn't really that big of a process, and we started playing.
Well, I mean, it's worked out pretty well. You guys are 6th, I believe, in the points for Proving Grounds, which is pretty kick-ass, if I'm being completely honest. There were 32 teams in Risen. Yeah. So pretty impressive stuff. I know that the roster you have now, well, 1, it's still changing, but 2, it is not the exact same roster that you had at the beginning. So, okay, so you mentioned that the roster was a little haphazard coming together. Were you one of the first people that were on the roster, or were you like all at the same time, or how did that go?
I think we were all at the same time, because everybody had different kind of opportunities. And then it was just like, I have to remember, because it was really just kind of like, hey, here are this group of 5 people. How about you guys play together? Okay. And that's how that happened. It was because I was doing tryouts for teams, and I didn't end up joining any of the ones that I tried out for. And then this one was just like, okay, here's the roster in theory. And then that's what we got. And so we didn't really do anything to prepare for it. It was just like, all of these guys weren't on teams, so how about you guys make a team?
Yeah, ends up like being the best possible scenario, like for you guys, right? And I think the interesting part, yeah, and I think like the interesting part about your roster is the fact that obviously you come in as someone who is very veteran for amateur, but you're paired up with like some pretty good young talents that we have, and people like Darkwings and Raheen. I know that RBM is stepping down, but I thought that he filled in really nicely for you guys as well. What's it been like for you, kind of stepping into more of like a leader, veteran role? I assume on that team, just given the fact that you are playing with a lot of young guys.
Well, for me, I guess since I have most of the experience on the team, is if we get wins or something in the middle of the series, you got to remind people to be calm down and don't get too excited over one win in a series, because one win in a series doesn't mean anything. You have to win 2 games to win a best of 3. So, got to keep people concentrated and focused on the game ahead. I guess in the middle of games, I wouldn't say I'm the only one that has a level head, because I think all the players, even if we're behind, have an idea of what they want to do, so that's good. I guess maybe it's just like on an individual level, these games, I don't get like nerves over these games like you would for an LCS game. Like amateur is not easy to say. Like there are a whole bunch of good players, but there's definitely less at stake than LCS or academy matches, or at least it feels like that, because you also practice way more in LCS and academy. Like your entire day is dictated around it. While here in amateur, what my team has scrimmed like twice in the past month.
Yeah.
And instead, our scrims are just early tournament matches against easier teams. So yeah, there's less at stake, and it's just less work than before. So I'm not too pressured all the time, and I feel like I can go into each match pretty calm and knowing what I want to do.
It's a little bit different from LCS when there's a cat tower next to you.
That's right.
That's usually the referee, or I guess, wait, yeah. Well, I guess it would depend on where you were, because it'd be like the support on the other team or something.
Right.
I'm trying to like get my bearings here. I've never been an LCS player, so I can't really say. But
Smax is just all turned around this morning already.
Yeah. Something like that. I don't know. I made my bed, so
that's you. That's a nice first step to being like having your cam on broadcast, Max. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. I put on this cozy sweater and I'm good to go. Okay, so you mentioned that in your off season you had a few ERL opportunities that you might have been able to do. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, or
yeah,
is that okay?
So I have dual citizenship. I'm an Irish citizen, and so I was thinking in the beginning that it wouldn't be too big of a hassle for me to go to Europe, which it wouldn't, because since I have citizenship there, it's like a work visa wouldn't be very hard to get.
Right.
The bigger problem is what they can offer you in some of the leagues. Like I didn't get any offers from the Spanish league or the French league, and pretty much all my offers came from the NLC, which is not in a very big ERL. They don't have a lot of funding, so like when they're offering me something, a lot of the time it's just like, hey, we can bring you out to Europe and like pay for your food and your living costs, but we can't pay you a salary. And so that is not worth it to me. Unless the team was like a guaranteed shot to European Masters and a contender for that, it wasn't going to be worth it on a competitive standpoint or a financial standpoint. Like, what? I'm not 18 or some kid coming out of high school anymore, right? I'm 25 and I'm 26 in it this year, so I've got to think about things that can are not just good for my gameplay, but good for financial reasons.
Yeah. Do you think like one of the reasons that you're back in amateur this year too, is just given the fact that like the format changed and it is a lot more competitive, so like you can actually compete against teams that have veterans like Dokal or Viper on it?
Well, I just wanted to play amateur because
Yeah.
I like competing. I didn't really care about what I was competing for or like who I was competing against. I just like to play the game at a competitive fives, team level. Really, I wouldn't be able to stay sane if I just played solo queue the entire year. So this is what I like doing. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that. I'm not nearly as good as you guys are at the game, and I can't play solo queue for more than like 2 games.
Right.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's brutal.
Well, I guess it's kind of convenient then that not only are you playing in the split that is conjoined with Academy, but then you're also on a pretty good team that is going to be playing against the Academy teams as well. So you mentioned that like the ERL teams that you're going to be on, there was no guarantee that it'd be going to EU Masters. Now you're effectively doing the NA version of that. Now we're not Europe. We're not nearly as competitive as them yet. But does it feel good knowing that like you will be going against the Academy teams that maybe you would have wanted to even be on in the off season?
Yeah, like at least at the very least, it feels good that I'm playing against what I could have been playing if I had landed on a team this split. So competition wise against who I'm playing against, that's nice, and I feel like I'm not really losing any skill in the off season. The only thing I would have liked is, and probably the biggest difference between the teams, is that Academy teams practice a lot and we practice so little. So they definitely have an edge in terms of time spent on the game.
Do you think that's because of the format that like the amateur side of Proving Grounds is, or is that like a team based thing, or what?
Almost
what
certainly the format.
Okay.
That being said, it's not just that, because people in amateur, there are more people with school and jobs, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
not everybody's gonna have the time, unless you're a team like they're called no org now, right?
Yeah.
Where they're all previous pro players, right? And they don't have commitments to school or work, so they could potentially, I don't know if they do, but they potentially have a lot more time to look for scrims and practice, while someone like on my team, I think everyone other than me is in school or has work.
Yeah.
So and my work is also League of Legends right now, so I have a lot of time to commit. But us, along with the consistent, like, okay, here's tournament matches all throughout the week, there's not always going to be a time where it's like, hey, can you scrim today? And so you very rarely get to practice.
That's like definitely like the lowest hanging fruit, like for improving Proving Grounds, going from like the spring into the summer, would be, I feel like West tournaments, like I know we're at 6 at the moment. I feel like 4 would be good, and give them a little bit more time to like run those tournaments.
Right.
Because right now, like viewership, we're forced to compete with LCS. Like cup finals are on Sunday, and no one's gonna watch that because LCS is on. I can't necessarily blame them, but also just having a week off too, like I think that's huge. Like the fact that you guys like can't really practice and scrim and improve, and I mean you've been in that environment too for Academy. You know how much that you're able to like improve and get done in those months that you are prepping for those 2 best of ones, and then in the breaks that you have where you aren't prepping for anything, right? And so I know I definitely like really want to see that change. I'm interested though, like the last time that you were an amateur would have been like what, 2016 maybe, like early, like early 2017. How do you feel about it like now compared to then? Like, do you think there's more or less talent? Do you like the format and the tournaments that are going on?
I'd say there's probably about this. There's always going to be new players looking to play professional league. So I can't really say there's more talent than before, because back then, it was like you had a whole bunch of new guys coming up that are now in the LCS or had played in the LCS.
Yeah, and you were applying for LCS spots back then too.
Yeah, and you're probably going to see that now. A bunch of people that are playing in amateur right now, in the future, they will be in Academy or LCS. So as for the talent, I'd say I'd say it's remaining relatively the same. I'd say the level of play has gone up since then, but with a game like League, like most of the time you can only go up over time. And there's not, people aren't just going to stagnate, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, I just think I'd say overall the system has gotten better than what it used to be, because before it would be like, you know, you play all year long to play in the OQ, and if you didn't win OQ, then, you know, better luck next time. You're just gonna be waiting for the next OQ.
Oh,
it was
man.
really dumb.
Yeah.
But so I actually kind of like the at least I don't like how many tournaments there are, because I'd like more practice, but you know, I do like I didn't like the one tournament a year, most important tournament of your life system. That was really annoying.
Yeah, I remember the one OQ where there was like E United with Zazel Licorice. There was Gold Coin United that was like being coached by Loco, and they had Mad Life and a couple other players, and then Team Fusion with like Nintendude and Mac Noon and like Hui Min. Like though, like all like those teams were like pretty talented, but like they were all just like playing for their lives, right? Like then you had to like go like face like the LCS teams that were like also playing for their lives, like in the most horrifying best of 5 you like would have ever played. CLG was one game away from getting like demoted, right? Yeah.
Did we lose our boy?
We might have lost Allorim. Oh no.
Back in it.
I was like, man, I talked about OQs and a worm just alt F forward. Unlucky.
Yeah, man, the OQs are just too bad of memories. What can I say?
Oh boy.
All right.
Cool. All right.
Are you still recording? Cody?
Yeah. You can just like get back into it whenever, and I'll go back and chop it up.
Okay. Where were we? So we were
in the OQ rant.
About OQ.
Yeah, it was the OQ rant.
Yes.
I was saying that how much I hated I loved the OQ because I felt like it was an amateur tournament with so many stakes, and OQ was sick. Like, as in the tournament itself, all the players played OQ. Everyone wanted to play OQ, but everyone dreaded the fact that the OQ was coming up, right? Because if you lost it, then there's all right. Better luck next time.
Yeah, you get regulated or relegated. My bad.
Well, not Well, you don't get relegated in OQ because it was just an open tournament. And
right.
You were playing to get into the NACS.
Yes.
Right.
NACS teams could be relegated, but in the OQ is just playing for your spot if you could get to that.
Yeah, and the NACS teams could like relegate the LCS teams, which was terrifying.
Right. That was a whole different thing.
CLG was one game away from not being an Oregon LCS.
Yeah, I was there. I only played NACS for one split, so I wasn't there for all of that.
Yeah, that was very scary,
now,
but very good for amateur as well.
Mm-hmm.
At least now they have supposedly multiple splits in Proving Grounds. We don't technically know that there's going to be another one, but we do.
We know there's going to be another one. We just don't know if it's 2 or 3 a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although, basically, like Proving Grounds is the Academy split. Like the main Proving Grounds event is the Academy playoffs. So they kind of have to have at least one more. But if there are 3, then that'd be pretty neat. I'm not really sure what that is, but at least now you get multiple of those every year. But it retains that sort of like, if you don't win in the tier 2 events, then you don't even get into the tier 1 events, and then you're just sitting there waiting for months. So it's not 12 months, but it is probably
not
like
as bad, but it's still.
Yeah.
But there are also, you have to think about, there are more teams competing this time, while for OQ is one team won and they were the happy ones, while there were like 60 other teams that were unhappy.
Yeah. Oh man.
So that's at least nice. Because there are 16 total teams in the Proving Grounds. Probably 6 amateur teams. Mm-hmm. There could be more. Golden Guardians Academy did, of course, just lose yesterday. But that was to no Oregon. That's pretty That's not very surprising. I'm sure you weren't surprised by that either.
Yeah, I mean the org is just an academy team, right? So
Right.
so it's not like that big of a surprise.
Yeah. I know we heard a lot about how when you guys were both previously new, you had the intention of not really being like it wasn't really sister teams because you weren't like interacting with each other all that much. Is that how much like how much interaction did you guys actually get? Was it really just none?
Yeah. I mean, we were a new by name only. It was we could have been named anything, and that's why when a new disbanded, it didn't mean anything to us. It was just we were a new Blaze by circumstance. We weren't, we're not getting paid. We're not under contract. It was just that's what we were, and so it was really whatever. And why we were under a new, I guess, was the only reason was because our manager, the guy finding scrims, was also part of a new, and that was like the only connection to it, really.
Fair enough. Well, now you're named after your cat, so
that's right.
The cat invaded LCS, just has to invade amateur now.
Yep.
Proving grounds next.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys well, okay, your team is a little bit in flux right now, but how are you feeling about your chances of getting into that the main Proving Grounds event? You guys are currently in that top 6, so mathematically you would get in if there are no upsets from here.
Right.
But are you confident that you're gonna make it to that last stretch?
I think so. Like I do think we have a pretty good chance to make it into that top 6. Like you said, we are currently. I think we could be playing a lot better. In fact, I think we played the worst we'd ever played last week, and some of those, or last week and maybe the past week and a half, are some of our 2 losses to Supernova and and one of our losses to I'm already forgetting. I'm already forgetting who we played against.
I don't. I'll pull it up. But yeah, I don't blame you. There's a lot of teams, as you said.
I have to remember a lot of these org names. But but yeah, we had some really bad games, and so and even series that we should have won. Like we should have won the Solifita series where we won our first game and lost the next 2, which is a problem with us, is where we'll win one game and then lose the next 2. So we still have a lot to work on, and I'd say specifically, like, sometimes we have some whack drafts that don't always work out. So just we need some consistency to fix up, and if we can at least be consistent, then I'm pretty sure we'll make it. I don't see why not. I think we at least have the individual talent to make it.
Yeah, I agree. I personally am very high on Raheen as well. I was really looking forward to seeing if he was going to get a spot on a team, because I got to cast his series that he won in the finals of a league just like 3 or 4 months ago, where he was on a team called Akuma, and he was like very good at clicking heads, which you kind of have to be as a character, but he was very good at it. And I was very happy that he got onto your squad, and seeing him succeed has been very fun. Are you having a good time with him as a teammate?
Well, I had no idea of his previous team history. In fact, I didn't know anyone except for Pocket Rhino since he was on TLA.
Yeah.
So I actually thought this was his first team. I didn't know he played any games before.
Oh, well,
Akuma's like pretty small, and like
they're not a challenger team or anything. He was the only challenger player on the team. But
yeah, I mean, I think he's good. I think he's pretty new, right? And he's young, so he's got a long way to go. But as for pressing, the keyboard and mouse as an AD carry, like, he can do that pretty well. It's the AD carry's job. He can certainly click those buttons and click the mouse.
Hell yeah.
With like working with like a lot of these like younger rookies like you have, like what's something, like thinking back to like when you were first like hopping into academy, right? Like what's something that Like you kind of wish that like you knew back then that like you're trying to kind of impart on these guys that are now on your squad?
That's hard to say because I feel like it is kind of the same now as it was back then,
Yeah.
except that the level of play is a little higher now and there's more to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, what I wish I knew, but it's more what I wish I had.
Yeah.
I guess. I wish I had like a bet more opportunities to play in tournaments like you do now, where I think the competition is a little more organized. Whereas very rarely you would get organized competition back then. And for example, one of the only ones that was an actual competition that was well done was the HTC Ascension tournament, which I don't know if you guys were around.
Yeah.
If you were around for that, I was in the HTC Ascension with Serpentis, and that was me and Demonte, Zazal. All three of us have played LCS now, and that was one of the very few tournaments that was organized, and so we already talked about how much the OQ mattered and how much you love it and hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish I had the system now because it's just you have so much more opportunity to play in tournaments, except you just wish that now slowed down a little bit, man.
Yeah. We overcorrected.
Yeah. Slow down on the tournaments. A little bit more practice, please.
Yeah, TL Academy participated in this, and then the reason I remember it is because Robert Morris University was in there as well. Because back then they were the best collegiate team that year behind UBC.
I think they were like the only collegiate team at one point too.
Yeah,
they were like the winners because it was like Prototype and Saskio, Papa Chow.
So that was the Maryville roster. Like once they got scholarships, but I think this was the year before Maryville got scholarships, and so it was West Coast Carry, Pumi, Gillette.
Oh,
and
right.
Evan
Yeah. Okay, now you're right.
Yeah. No, this is like funny, like looking back at this, because there are like some good names on here. Also, Lion Gaming came on in to play this as well. LL Stylish was actually a mid laner here with Kitsuo.
I remember, but that team was really bad. LL.
Yeah.
I remember. They were a free win, I remember.
Flares, Grig, and Bio were on a team, also known as,
AKA, you had Frostbite, which was Hakuo, the Massacre 8, or Cody-san.
Wow.
I think it was the Wolf's Claw, Harry Abs, and Billy Boss.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No. I remember like this tournament going on because like we were like, oh my god, a collegiate team is competing, because like back then I founded the program like Miami University, Ohio, and so we've always had like non-scholarship teams. Like we always have to play against the teams in the North, which suck for us. Because they're really good because they get to pick their roster. Yeah. But yeah, this is like fun looking back. Fabi is on a team still, the gatekeeper.
Oh yeah, that was TLA Fabi. That was the best version of Fabi. TL Fabi.
Yeah. No, that's funny. I remember this going on, and it's good now that like at least like some TOs, like I know Cup like has a decent prize pool. I think the T1s will have a decent prize pool as well. So it's like as you said, a lot of the teams have been very public about the fact that like they aren't salaried, right?
Right.
Even like an org like Barrage. So at least having those winnings go towards at least to help out if you're a good team.
That's no different from back then. Like and back then it was like if you got $400, $500 a month, it was like, my God, I'm raking in the money.
Yeah.
Back in 2015 and 2016, because I remember playing an amateur for free like way back in the day, and then when I got my first salary, quote unquote, it was $440 or something on Serpentis, and I'm like, yes, best time of my life.
We made it, boys.
Yeah, but nowadays it's like, okay, I'm talking amateur teams who tell me we can't pay you. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Oh, that's funny. I know that like there's a phrase floating around right now that like the only difference between amateur and academy is a paycheck. I
actually say, yeah.
Yeah, do you feel like there's any truth to that?
I actually think there's a lot of truth to that. I think now that I've been playing into it more and I played for academy for so long, there really is not that much difference between the top amateur teams, like the top 8 even, and all the academy teams. In fact, I'm sure there are many of the amateur teams that are better than the academy teams. I'd say like maybe the top academy teams are probably better than the top amateur teams. And like I said, I'd say the main difference is the amount of practice they get, and the amount of practice we get is astronomically different. And so if amateur players had the time to just practice every day like an academy team would, and academy team has 2 matches a week. Well, we have 3, and then one scrim if we're lucky. If we had those 4 scrims and all the matches, like the amateur teams would be on par with top academy teams. And since I played in it for so long, I know the skill difference. I know what it's like playing academy. I know what it's like playing amateur. Amateur matches, there are certainly teams that are really easy to beat. And that was also the case in academy, depending on the team you played against.
Yeah.
But I'd still say the average level of competition in academy is higher, but there's really not that big of a difference. I'd say the line is like getting blurred together.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be really interesting in the future with amateur versus academy, other than just Golden Guardians.
It seems to be a trend, especially, I mean, since you are the 3rd top laner we've had in a row. It seems like everyone is just like
the top lane monopoly.
Yeah. That's what we are over here. It's just like, all the top laners, like I feel like I can beat them all. Not me, of course I can't. But it definitely feels like that's a common sentiment. Do you feel the same way?
I guess if that's the sentiment, then I mean, I came into amateur thinking, I was already kind of a big dog here, at least, not to be ego or anything, but I'd say I have some edge over the other top laners.
Yeah.
Well, that edge is going to get even sharper now, because I don't know if you saw, because in the middle of this recording, the patch notes actually got dropped, and Urgot was buffed.
Oh, so enormous!
Yeah, pretty huge there.
People are gonna permaban Urgot versus me no matter what.
Yeah, it seems that way. I think you owe me a thank you for that also, because I'm giving you some free PR for your Urgot.
Man, before you even said anything, like when I was playing Urgot in the LCS, right, I was drawing a lot of Urgot bans in LCS. Urgot and Malphite specifically, and there were, and it wasn't just NA. I had multiple players from Europe DM me on Twitter asking for, what I do on Urgot, because I was the only QMax Urgot player pretty much left, and the only Urgot player in NA left. There were no other Urgot players in Academy or LCS except for me. I was the only one, and so a lot of people are confused as to why I max Q, right? But I don't do it out of habit, because before you would max Q, like when Urgot first got reworked, I do it because I think it's good. And I think my results with Urgot speak for themselves. I think I performed really well on that champion, win or lose almost every game. And my LCS games on Urgot were also very strong. So a lot of people would come to me for whatever my opinion was on the champ. And if he's getting buffed, then great. Like,
well, each leg rocket has 0.25 higher AD ratio, so it's actually a pretty thick buff. I think it's on Splash, not on initial, but it's not bad. Like the only other Urgot player I can think of is like Bwipo, right? Like ever since he's just been busted.
Europe is a bigger fan of Urgot than NA, that's for sure. Especially in the ERL, like I've seen Urgot players sitting there too. But at least in NA, I'm the last one. But I already think the champ is really good. So if he's getting buffs, then all right, fantastic.
Yeah, he is really good. It's crazy. I've had a lot of conversations with colleagues and things and people about like how strong I think the champion is, and people just don't. They just don't play him for some reason. They like think he's weak.
I'm not.
It's crazy.
I'm not understanding that either, because I think he's actually blind pickable, which is, not all top laners can be blind picked safely, and I think Urgot is blind pickable. He doesn't have very many bad matchups. I can think of a few that I don't want to play against, but
Right.
even the bad matchups, I'm like, all right, I can play this in anything, and just let me get my items.
Yeah. Throughout your career, Allorim, it feels like, considering like your champion pool versus like what we usually see the other top laners in NA playing, it always feels like you have these picks up your sleeve, whether that is the Malphite the year got, even going back to like the Wukong and like the old York as well.
Yeah.
And New York yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you why do you think like you end up coming up with these picks? Like, do you have a different fundamental belief of like how top lane is supposed to work? Do you feel like you're like mechanically able to pull these champions off when other people aren't? Like, what kind of leads to you kind of innovating this in the top lane?
All right. So I'm the first to admit there are a few champions that I cannot play where I'm just like inept on them. I can't do it. And so it all stems from these champions that I just suck at. And when I say I suck at them, it's not like, I tried them once, I sucked, and I was like, all right, never again. It's like, put in 30, 40 games and I'm losing to like plat players. And so and so when I say I'm bad at them, I mean like I just don't grasp it at all, and I'm outside of like I can play the game regularly, but I just can't play the champion. So I just say, all right, you know what? Forget the champion, and then I start playing something that I think can beat the champions. Because if I can't help our draft by playing the champion that's strong, I'm going to help our draft by, if they play that champion that's strong, I'm going to play this pocket pick that beats that champion so hard that they're going to be crying for picking that champion. So and there are not a lot of Poppy players right now, right? And I'd say I'm really big on Poppy myself.
Yeah.
And so when Poppy wasn't that strong, and now a lot of people play her, and when champions like Aurelia and Camille are so big, especially right now as Camille, we can leave open Camille and pick Poppy into it, because Poppy has such a good... The matchup in lane is like fine, but the real strength comes from like Poppy wins in team fights versus Camille, and it makes Camille harder to play, because if you block the E, she's grounded, you can stun her and kill her before she even R's. And that was the same theory with Yorick. When I first started playing Yorick, it was because Gangplank was so strong, and I am garbage at Gangplank. So when they picked GP, I would instant lock Yorick and then just hammer down the turrets and just win lane and win game from that. Although, as for Yorick yesterday, that was the first time we had ever played Yorick, and we had never played split push comp before. So
yeah.
So
that's tough to get into as a team.
We weren't exactly, practiced. So, but the history of these pocket picks all has to do with just, all right, if I'm going to be a detriment and I can't play this certain strong meta pick, I'm going to find something that can at least like take that meta pick and, reverse Uno card on them. Yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So now we will win with this. And that's where all that all came from. Same with like this didn't come from that, but because I can play Aatrox, but we would counter when Aatrox was really meta. We would counter Aatrox with Nocturne top, which I brought out maybe about a month ago, but not many people are blinding Aatrox right now.
Lane Nocturne's back, baby. They buffed it.
Lane Nocturne's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm a big Lane Nocturne player.
Yeah.
I've been talking about Lane Nocturne for a bit, actually. The Stride Breaker is super sick on him. It feels so nice. Your fear.
I haven't gotten to try it out yet because we don't play Nocturne that much, because you have to blind pick, or at least for our condition, it's blind pick Aatrox. But other than that, it's just maybe I'll bring out Nocturne in random circumstances, but I wouldn't know. I'll see it on the draft and I'll say, okay, this is my time. But I don't know when that will be.
You should get Dark Wings on that too, because it's a pretty good pick into like Zoe.
Yeah.
Galio. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I find that like just like the whole initial point like really interesting though, because like that's always like something I encourage people to do like with League is always like thinking about the game like on your own. Like it's so easy to just like go look up builds, like look up like VODs of like how like what people are doing and like trying to copy it, but if you don't understand the why behind it, then like what are you doing as a player, right? And so I like that, right? Like it's like, all right, like I can't play Gangplank, that's fine. Like we're gonna figure out something that can like beat it, and then all of a sudden like you become a real bitch to deal with in draft. We'll put it that way.
Right.
So yeah, that's cool. I like that. And I also love seeing York played. So let's go.
Yeah, York stems back all the way to Echo Fox. That's I'm repping my Echo Fox today, but I played. I remember it because it was so effective back then when I had played York, and it was early 2018, and I didn't even win on it. I don't think. I think we lost. But for the rest of the split, York was banned. We didn't even win the game. I played York, and it was banned for the rest of the split.
Was that pre or post rework?
It was post rework.
Okay.
And it was like when it just came out, and no one was playing it. And
was that like back when everyone was blinding Jace? Because it's really good in the Jace.
Yes. Yeah. It was Jace. It was still Jace and GP, and I think there was some Gnar too. And I remember it being really relevant and like getting us to playoffs because it would make our drafts like, okay, they're gonna ban York. I mean, we barely even played it. It was just that I had a York pick, and when we played against TLA in the semifinals, York was banned all 4 games too. It was just pretty funny, like saying that something that you didn't even win on, which inspires so much fear into the enemy, right?
They looked at your solo queue match history, man. They were scared.
I did play York at solo queue. So.
Yeah.
That reminds me of yesterday when we saw the AP Twitch come out from Prismal. I don't know if you got to catch those games.
I did. I saw. I was looking at it in between the games. I saw Prismal popped off on AP Twitch, and there are a couple AP Twitch players on NA solo queue. So I was wondering when it was going to come out, and I didn't know if it ever would because playing Twitch in lane and competitive can sometimes be a BG. But he pulled it off.
Yeah, that's an understatement, actually.
He really pulled it off.
Yeah, they were down 6K gold, and then they weren't. And then Prismal had 15 kills.
That was awesome.
I did not realize it was a 2 AP ratio on the E when you get max stacks.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's nuts.
That's a lot.
It is really gross.
And he didn't even have a mythic.
Until the very end, but he was dead, and then they exploded the Nexus while he was dead. Yeah, that was a fun time. I'm glad to see that there are still some crazy picks out there. Also, another fun thing about York is that the other big York player in LCS and the other split push player in LCS is also an amateur in Dokla.
Dokla, yeah.
Old teammates.
When you say really big York player, I want to credit Dokla playing York was entirely me, and that's not even an exaggeration. Dokla playing York was entirely my idea and came from me.
You guys were both, like that. You guys were teammates,
On Optic, he saw what I was doing.
His York was terrifying too,
and he picked it up. And I swear to God, it was entirely because in internal scrims, my York would be wreaking havoc, and so he was just like, "Whatever, man. Now it's mine."
That's what I was gonna ask actually, because I know you guys were, I guess you'd call that teammates. Yeah.
We had like a lot. We shared a lot of picks together.
That's cool.
Back on Optic.
That makes sense. Have you? Oh yeah, you did play against Solo Fide. Because it was in Risen semis, right?
Well, we played against them
in cup
a week
groups
ago.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
we won the first game and lost the next 2.
Of course, yeah. Do you guys have some banter during that series?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that's almost all of Solo Fide except for Winston that I've been teammates with before. I was Dokla on Optic for so long.
Yeah.
Tuesday I was on a team with back in 2016 or 2015 on a team called Flashpoint. Apollo, obviously I was on Immortals with Apollo. And with Zazal, I was teammates with Zazal on Serpentis. Yeah. So long time, but I've been around a while, so I guess you get to play with a lot of players.
A lot longer than me. I didn't even know about all the Challenger Series OQ stuff. That was
right. So I've just been around for so long. I know all of them, but that series was really close, and it's unfortunate that we lost it. I think we should have won the second game because I was so strong on Urgot that game. That was my quadra kill TP.
Right.
We should have won that one, but we didn't because it was almost like Urgot 1v9. But unfortunate, but it happens.
That was that was the game that we were watching, and then I tweeted that I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was like, oh, yep, Allorim is in fact the best Urgot.
You recognize.
It also helps when Apollo flashes over a wall in the 4 and gives you guys a nice little Christmas gift.
I wasn't even looking at that. I was looking at the low HP Hecker, and I'm like, I gotta hit these R's.
Yeah, I know. It's like we were like joking around, like win conditions against Solafide. It's like step 1, ban Ezreal, and then there's like, oh no, Ezreal got through, and then he was doing really well and like gave that gift away. Started like doing really well after, but. Obviously, he's a really strong team fighting AD carry.
It was
an
good. Oops from him.
Yeah. We all get one, right? It's amateur. You play a lot of stage games.
And he played well that game. Other than that,
he did. Yeah, he played very well. Yeah, that it's always funny like seeing those pregame lobbies where like a lot of the players like know each other. Like the trash talk between Barrage and Solafide is so funny before those games, and I know that they're going to be in the semis.
Yeah, we get that semifinal again. Very fun.
Yeah, it's like the amateur grudge match that we have this year. That and then you against Noorg or a new main.
Yeah.
You guys always seem to find each other.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of that, if Noorg wins Cup, then you actually play against them in round 2 of the first tier 1.
Oh,
because that's how the seeding works.
If you get through round 1, I think round 1 you're against Maryville.
You're against Maryville, right? So whoever wins that would play against the 3rd seed, because you guys are already locked in 6th, and they're already locked in
Well,
9th.
I didn't know that. So,
but then they have the academy teams coming in. So yeah, that would be the matchup. If they win Cup, they would have to win Cup though.
Okay.
or I think maybe get 2nd. I don't know, something along those lines.
I'll wait and find out.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm getting way ahead of myself. That's in like a week. But yeah, it's fun. Some fun matchups in Proving Grounds. It's always good to see. Go ahead, Cubby.
Yeah, so I was like, obviously, like you like have Proving Grounds and all that going on, but also as you mentioned, you are on the LCS broadcast, which is also very fun and somewhat a new venture for you. For you, like, what's it been like so far? Kind of having to pick up being on-air talent and working on that.
Well, I've always had like a pretty good relationship with Riot. And when I guested on there before, they liked what I brought, and I think
I did too.
At least the general feedback from the community was pretty good too. So
yeah,
it was just like, all right, I'm on a team. Let me hit up Riot and see if they can throw me a bone. And so. I mean, that's how that came about. It really wasn't anything big. I didn't go through any large process. It was just, having contacts is pretty helpful for when you need something to do.
You guys listening, rookies? Go do your networking.
Yeah, networking is good.
Yeah.
And so, keeping a good relationship with not only players but the Riot themselves can only benefit you in the future. And it was I guess I like to broadcast, but I like to play even more so. I downplay broadcasting sometimes, or maybe it sounds like I downplay broadcasting sometimes, because don't get me wrong, I like talking about League of Legends.
Yeah.
But I like playing League of Legends even more. So in the future, I'm still looking to play in LCS and Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of like what got you onto the broadcast initially, right? Because you were a player. And then you came on for the summer playoffs?
It was, I don't remember when exactly it was, but I think it all started was just that people liked my interviews after I would win games. People liked whatever some stupid garbage I was saying, trying to make jokes. And so after that, it was just, they would invite me to one of those academy broadcasts. I did that. And then after the Academy broadcast, they brought me on to LCS. And then after LCS, they brought me on the Worlds. And so it's just like stepping stones.
Yeah. No, it's good. And like, obviously, it's always good to get like a player's perspective as well. Because like, I coach a collegiate team and like I've peaked GM as support, but I don't know as much as you guys, right? And so it's always really nice to kind of hear your perspective on the game too. And kind of going off of that, obviously now you kind of have a glimpse at LCS. and academy teams, not only playing in Proving Grounds, but also kind of being on air.
Right.
I know that you mentioned earlier that like young talent's moving up. I know that 13 out of the 20 players that were in scouting grounds this past year got picked up on the LCS teams. A lot of OS players came on over. And we didn't see a lot of imports, which we've seen in past years, obviously in NA. So like kind of like overall, like, you know, top to bottom, how do you feel NA is doing like as a region and like the gameplay that we've seen so far, considering that, you know, we have a lot of rookies or a lot of OS players coming on in for both LCS and Academy?
I think actually that LCS, the average LCS team has probably gone down a little bit in play this year. But I think that's the growing pain that comes from picking up all these new players and players that don't have much experience. It's a scaling type of thing where if you pick up all these new players and you're, you know, out with the old and in with the new, there is probably going to be a decrease in initial play. Like you'll see a lot of sloppy games or really stupid mistakes, but you're counting on 6 months from now or a year from now that the play is going to go up on average than it was before. So right now, I think other than the very top teams in LCS, the average LCS play is kind of weak, and there are a lot of really obvious mistakes, but you know, it's something that you have to give time. As for Academy, I think it's about the same.
Okay.
I think Academy has always been kind of a league that is a little wild and anyone can beat anyone. And
Yeah.
Other than like the really top teams, you know, there's not that much consistency. So I'd say Academy's about the same and LCS is a little bit lower right now in skill level.
Have there been like any big standouts to you, like with some like the younger players coming on up between Academy and LCS? Like, has anyone like really impressed you?
I guess Spica, but he's not that new. He maybe a year. Because Spica wasn't that impressive about a year ago. When he was swapping,
was really good.
Yeah, when he was swapping with Acadian and Greg.
Yeah.
So, but I think he's really found his identity, and I think he's been making a really good showing for himself. So I guess if I had to pick someone, it'd be Spica.
Yeah, I'm the TSM like jungle meme. I think is like kind of hurt him with like community perspective, but he's actually smurfing like.
Yeah, no, he's doing well.
Yeah, he's playing really well, and it's good to see like another young player, you know, from NA kind of come up because kind of comes from the, I guess the generation of like the Johnson Tactical, right? Like kind of like in that group. So that's even more players that are playing well from that group of people. So it's good to see.
Yeah, it's good for him.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the LCS broadcast as a whole has improved? Of course you're on it, so like obviously you have that direct line, but I know like last year it was the biggest meme that I think it's ever been.
I guess,
of course it was with the dome and everything, but
yeah. I guess so. Like I didn't really watch the broadcast in previous years because usually during the broadcast of LCS, I was scrimming in Academy. So it's not like if I saw the games, I wouldn't stick by to listen to the analyst desk because I'm in the next scrim. So I didn't have a lot of time to listen to the broadcast, but if I read social media now, a lot of them say that it's better now than it was before, so I will have to take their word for it. I have no choice but to like, oh yeah, it was bad before, but now it's all right. Or, you know, you'll have differing opinions on it. And,
Allorim saved LCS. That's here first. Yeah.
There are a lot of people that still don't like it, I think, because when you listen to Analyst Desk, especially on Riot, you're on a schedule, right? So a lot of the time when you're doing reactionary content, it might not always hit the mark because you're saying something that is almost just coming from your head straight to the screen, and it could be wrong, right? And when people hear that and they disagree with you, it's like, wow, these guys suck. Like, what are they doing? So we're not always going to hit the mark, but I think with the people that we've added and the different perspectives, like right now you maybe have me as player perspective and specifically top lane. You have Emily, who is more jungle, and she watches a lot of LPL, right? So she knows a lot about that. Mark focuses a lot on the analytics of the game. Like, since you have a lot of people who specialize in one thing, you are more likely to hit the mark than before. But still, you don't always get it, so not everybody's going to like it. But if you offer many of these different things, more than likely you will at least find an audience member will find one thing out of the broadcast that they at least enjoy. So I'd say on average, more people would be willing to listen, or instead of just, mute the browser right after the game, they pay attention afterward.
Yeah, it's the rotating desk, like it's just refreshing, right? And I think it's
really
like
cool.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of really good people on there, so it's been fun to watch and fun to see you involved as well. And also, repping amateur a little bit, which is always good. Hopefully that gets more eyes as we do move into proving grounds.
Right.
So yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you is that you're giving us some excuses for sometimes being dumb on our desks.
I mean, I think no one is going to have just everything they say is right. If an analyst, everything they said was 100% correct, my God, someone pay this guy millions to be on a team. He's never wrong. He's never been wrong in his life. Like, that's just, no analyst is ever going to have that kind of, because people are always going to disagree with you, one, and two, like, no one knows everything, right? Like, you're not going to just be this wonder boy of League of Legends. Like, okay, you can play every lane perfectly. You understand the game at its highest level. You're number one in the world. It doesn't matter if you play top, mid, support, jungle, AD. I know more than you.
Yeah.
There's just no such thing as that. And so when someone like me, I'm a top laner, and I'm not, I analyze the game for LCS, but I'm a player, and I didn't ever practice anything like with analytics or anything. I just speak about what I know, and sometimes it's right and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
So if I say something about jungle pathing and it's wrong, then, well, my bad, I guess. But I just speak about what I saw and what I think was the right play. And I could be wrong, I could be right. There are going to be many people that can disagree, and you might get some angry Twitter reactions. But, none of us will ever be the person that knows 100% about all the lanes. And if you think that's the case, then you're just delusional, because that doesn't exist.
Now coming for someone who has to do analyst tests for Cup, the key is if you mess something up and you're forced to talk about jungle pathing, you flame the host for forcing you to talk about that.
That's right.
Yeah, you just fire it straight back at him, like, Rafa, why'd you give me that, right? Or like, Dash, what are you doing?
It's just
make it really public on Twitter, and then you're good, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's time for Cubby and I's ego check. Do you think that we are doing a good job?
That was a total joke question.
Great. If you want
great hosting.
I have not watched many of these
That's okay.
analyst segments, if I'm being perfectly honest, because usually I'm doing something in the middle of them, because while you guys are doing your thing, I'm playing my own match.
That's true.
And every single match we played in this cup, except for the very first one, has gone to 3 games. So if you guys have been done on a 2-0, I'm still playing. So
I was mostly joking.
So Allorim and Zeus Gaming.
Anyway.
Yeah, you guys play for content. That's all I'm hearing. Go for 3 games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I've just got we like to play a lot of games. That's why we won 2, lost 2. All of them in game 3. We even took the quarterfinal in game 3. So.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're giving us just more content to talk about. So, actually, you know what? If we suck, then it's actually because your gameplay was bad and we didn't have much to talk about.
Yeah,
so actually,
you guys can only play off whatever the players do. So, in the future, you're getting paid millions by whatever org.
Thank you.
This guy knows everything.
It's good to hear from you. I feel like this is a pretty big vouch.
The death segments it's tough. Like, we gotta pick, you gotta figure it out on the fly and pick who you want to talk about, and you don't know how much time there is. It's and ultimately the entire point of it is just to buy time for the players to get back in the game, right?
Yeah.
And so it's As long as I don't say something stupid enough, like we lose viewers, we're good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we throw up like the image of Rafa photoshops in like 90 seconds and Twitch with a cat and a hat.
I'd say Riot does a very good job organizing their broadcast.
Yeah.
Dash is very good at what he does.
Yeah.
And
so
like
good.
facilitating conversations. So very rarely in broadcast LCS will I feel like I'm lost on what I would say, because we have a system behind the scenes, like what each of us are going to talk about during the game, and you've got the producers, ready to toss to advertisements or toss to interviews or bringing up graphics that can facilitate a conversation. And if all else fails, you'll just hear like a second of silence, and then Dash will pipe up and say something off the brain, off the dome, and it'll lead into something else. So it's been pretty good on LCS.
Yeah.
Is this something that, like, I know you mentioned that you wanna play first and foremost, but is this something that you'd want to go back and do again, like in the future, even if you are playing a lot?
Yeah, employment's nice. So,
well, okay.
He's got dual citizenship. He just wants dual employment now.
Rather than playing amateur only for free, I would prefer having some kind of employment.
Oh, okay.
I get that.
Yeah. On top of enjoying doing it, of course.
Yeah. Of course. It's all memes there. All right. Well, I feel like I've got all my joke questions out of the way.
You only had the one joke question, Specs?
I talked about Urgot. I got that out of the way.
You usually have like 5, and then I just like have to sit here and just be like, oh god, what is this guy gonna ask? It's like, does Allorim alt F4 again?
Yeah. Get me out of here.
Oh no, guys, my modem it died again.
Oh man, I don't know if you saw that, but our producer during the cup yesterday, his cat like took out his Ethernet cable.
Yes, that actually did happen 2 days ago.
Wow.
We got ganked by a cat.
Oh yeah, 2 days ago.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
Yeah.
My cat is not that big into Ethernet cables, thankfully. So she's more into like tearing up paper towels and tissues.
Nice. You're one of the lucky ones. Then.
I can see how that inspired the logo.
Very into cords.
Yeah.
So okay, I one last thing that I wanted to ask you about, and it is just how you think you currently stand, where you want to be compared to where you want to be as like your personal branding, whether that be as a player or as someone on broadcast. Do you feel like you've hit a good stride and you're at where you want to be in terms of that, or is there still something more that you want people to like hear your name and be like, oh, this is what this guy is, and like that sort of thing? How do you feel you are with your own like branding as a person?
I wouldn't say I ever like worked on a certain brand for myself. I just kind of the biggest thing that came into my brand, and when I started getting a little bit more popular, was from I talked about it before, like I would have an interview after a game and people thought it was funny, and that was just me joking around, right? And
yeah,
I think a lot of the time I didn't do it on purpose, I just did it, right? It was natural to me and I think it was a breath of fresh air for a lot of people. There's a lot of players you get interviewed and it's kind of monotone, right? They're not exactly giving a whole lot of effort into it. I know a lot of players in LCS hate doing content, like, and there will be many times when I would have wins after Academy or LCS. It's like, hey, do you want to be interviewed? And the answer, no. When the answer for me was like, hell yeah, like get me on there. So I guess that's where that came from, and it's nothing I put in an effort toward doing. It's just I don't mind being on camera and doing content. So it was never a big issue for me to reach out and try and be a little more part of like the community and making myself known.
Yeah.
And in the future, I probably would just keep doing the same thing. I'll keep doing content. LCS, if they ask me to do something with my banjo or guitar, I'll do it, right? Like when we did the
sea shanty.
Yeah, the sea shanty.
That was fun.
That
was fun.
Oh, well, initially they had asked us all to sing, and I said, what if I didn't sing and instead played a backing rhythm? And so that's how that came about.
That's a way better idea. Yeah. A bunch of people singing. Why not throw in a banjo? Come on.
Yeah. So that's where that came from, and it's just, if we do any content in the future, I'm one of the first ones to say like sign me up. get me in there.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I wish that like more players had that attitude. Obviously, everyone's like different, but it does really help, and also appreciate the fact that you don't give the boring interview. Like we've all, Smacks and I have been there, like where you talk to players after the game, and you're like, all right, man, just like give me something.
Like, did you see?
Say something.
I don't mean to throw him under the bus, but did you see Fake God's recent?
His was funny though.
Oh, it was so funny.
Very funny.
It was so funny.
His was like definitely full of emotion.
Yeah.
But he was kind of lost in the moment. He didn't know what to say.
No,
it was funny,
but really funny.
But when I'm thinking of like bad interviews, I'm thinking of players. You'll get Tigris or Dash. You go, hey man, you just got to win. How are you feeling? And the player's answer is good.
Yeah,
that's it, right?
Yeah.
That's when you know the interview from there on is going to be. It's the same shit it always is. It's
yeah.
They'll ask how the team prepared for this. We practiced a lot and our scrims were good. It's just like answers like that where it's like wow, did the corporation give you the script to read off of? Gave you a list of questions. So
the media
there are
training.
a lot of interviews. Yeah, there are a lot of interviews like that. And while Fake Gods, I guess some would say is a bad interview. It really wasn't.
It
really
so
wasn't
good.
Because it was funny and like maybe it was embarrassing at the time, but I'm sure he can look back at it and laugh.
Yeah,
it's because
if it was a true bad interview, I would have even remembered.
He was overwhelmed with whatever emotion was handling him right then, and it was nice to see that on the screen because you obviously it meant a lot for him to take the win.
Yeah,
and he was just happy to be there. So
so
that was better than the blank faced, pro player number 1, number 2, or number 3, just giving generic answers.
Yeah, we were in a call like when Smacks was like watching that interview because like we were in there with Kelsey who coached Fake God,
right?
And she's like, "You got to watch it. It's awesome. It's like it's the greatest interview." And so Smacks like deaf muted. Let's like watch it. It was like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it was funny. It was kind of like opposite of what I did. I would kind of take a question, just go on some kind of rant and derail it to some kind of jokes, while his was like, he'd get a question, he'd sit there. I don't know what I'm doing.
it was wholesome at the least, and
it was really good.
Hey, at least for him, he's playing pretty well at the start of the season too. So hopefully we get to see more of him. Yeah,
Dig's great.
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised by that in LCS, but yeah, no, it's always nice when like I would say it's a chance for like you to show off like whatever personality you have like in an interview, and putting a face to a name is always. It's not. It's something that's like tough to do in gaming. It's very different from like sports, where like you say the name and it's like like that is that is the player.
Well, especially if you're not on a top team.
Yeah, that too.
If you're on a top team, it's very difficult to gain traction and fans. You'll have fans, but maybe not that many. And if you're losing, then it's hard to gain, especially in esports. Who are you going to be your fans if you're just taking L's all the time? You got to make them someone else.
That is the one thing. I was having this conversation like the other day. Like the one thing I really appreciated about Overwatch League, even though I kind of failed, is like they tried to geolocate teams. So you like actually have a reason to root. Like I've got a Cubs jersey on right now. Like I'm from Chicago. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan. If you aren't like, who do you root for in esports? If like it's not the winning team, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, because you're not really like. In esports, you're not a fan of a team as much as you're a fan of players on the team.
Yes.
Right. That's why, you saw so many Double F fans go from CLG fans to TSM fans to TL fans back to TSM fans. They didn't care about the org, right? There are not that many people that are loyal to an org, but they're loyal to their favorite player.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least on the bright side, going from CLG to TSM probably added a few years to your life.
Yeah,
so there's that too, yeah. But no, it's a definitely an interesting problem like the industry still has to solve.
Yeah, I mean, I am now a very big Golden Guardians fan now that Niles is on that team. So
it's true. They took some collegiate boys. Hopefully they can
follow your favorite players.
Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, that's what this show is all about, Allorim. Is making sure that players have their faces out there, and I know yours is well broadcasted on LCS, but we really appreciate you coming.
This is for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
yeah.
said it. You know. Yeah, maybe. Well, we appreciate it either way.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, no. I'm glad you got the time to come on here. Really looking forward to seeing you guys continue in T1. This is where I plug that we have a challenger jungle friend. His name is Mayamo Big D, and he is looking for a team. So if you guys want to check him out, then
Mayamo Big D.
Yeah, that's him.
MLBD would be the. I'm gonna leak his Smurf. That's the one he's pulling out at the moment.
There it is.
But yeah.
You just put 2 and 2 together and you figure out that.
No,
that's him.
you guys will probably find other junglers, but
yeah, no.
He is on broadcast with us.
I'm letting the other guys handle that one.
There you go. Yeah. We're speaking of plugs though. Before we hop on off, is there anything that you want to plug, like where we can follow you besides just Twitter?
I think that's the only place anyone can
Okay.
follow me.
We've got it on the screen. Yeah, you can check out Allorim there, and then on LCS the days that he is on the desk, as well as Zeus Gaming with T1.
Yeah, that's coming up in the Unified Grand Prix. Hopefully I got that name right.
UGP, yeah.
Yep, UGP. So I got the initials right at least.
Yeah.
That's coming up. And you can check us out at Proving Grounds Pod on all of our platforms on Twitter, and we've got all the audio platforms and everything: Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, or not SoundCloud,
Apple.
Never mind. Apple is the one.
There you go.
And Anchor. Those are the ones. Check us out there.
Good job,
and yeah, this has been episode 6 of the Proving Grounds Pod with Allorim. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week, same time, Thursday at 9 Eastern. We also have some other special stuff happening that is TBD. So stay tuned for that. And have a great night, everyone. We'll see you all next week.